Well, hey everybody, thanks so much for tuning in and thanks for taking a quick look at our recap video for week 4 of our Vanity series. Now, if you were able to join us last night, this is a great reminder, maybe a great recap on what we talked about. And if you couldn't join us, well, you're in the right place. This is a quick video just to remind you all to help fill you in on what we talked about last night in week 4 of our Vanity series. So let's take a look. So last night we spent our time going through chapter 3 in the book of Ecclesiastes, and we kind of landed on one main point, one main idea through this, but we split it up into 3 sections. And the whole chapter of chapter 3 really is divided into 3 different sections. And so before I give you kind of the main point, the bottom line of last night, I wanted to talk to you about just those 3 little things we talked about during the message. Now in chapter 3 we get kind of a transition from the author, from Solomon, of asking all of these questions, doing these experiments. You've heard us use that term a couple times now. And then he goes into another poem actually. We see a poem in chapter 1 and now another poem in chapter 3. And this poem's purpose is essentially there's a time for everything. Meaning there is a time, and in verse 6 and 7 we see there's a time to seek and a time to lose. There's a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silent and a time to speak. And the author goes through this whole poem, this long list of different things, essentially to let us as readers know that following God looks different for all of us. And some of us may be in a certain season at a certain time of life, while another one of us is in a completely different area. And that's okay. In fact, it's okay for us to spend time encouraging one another, but there's also a time for us to maybe sit back and let people experience emotions on their own. And this is really important because when it comes to doing life, when it comes to following Jesus, I think we kind of get focused on only one sole way of living, one season of life, one specific look on how being a Christian should look like. But the reality is there is a time for everything, and the author wants us to understand that. Now, the second thing we learned in kind of the middle section of this chapter is that God has everything planned out for us. In fact, God's literally made a plan for you and me, and there's nothing that we can do to alter, to change, to add, or take away from that. And initially, that might seem like a really unfortunate thing for us, but the reality is, and what we hopefully learned last night, is that it's actually a great thing. In fact, so often, and I'm a big culprit of this, we try to plan our lives out. We try to make things work the way we want them to, and we try and be proactive, which is a great thing, right? It's good for us to plan ahead. It's good for us to be organized. But in this chapter, in the second part of chapter 3, we kind of realize that sometimes we need to react and respond to what God's doing in our life instead of try to fit God into a box. Instead of trying to say, I want to do this, and so I'm going to do whatever I can to make God fit into that plan. But the reality is, God's already got it planned out for us. God already knows what your and my life is going to look like. And so sometimes in life, we need to step back and respond and be more focused on His plan for us rather than our own. And lastly, we finished off the chapter in chapter 3 by discussing, and this was really our main point, our bottom line for the message, and that's that God is in control. And thank God that He's in control. And I want us all to understand this is a really important part in this book of Ecclesiastes, where the author, in a negative tone in some areas, but more so in a positive light, wants us to understand that it is a good thing that God is in control. It's a good thing that God has your and my best interests in mind. And so my challenge for you guys this week is to ask yourself, how are you trusting in God? How are you putting your faith in Him? How are you choosing to say, God, I want to give you everything I have. I want to let you be in control of my life, not myself. So spend some time thinking about that this week. Ask yourself what you can do to give God more control of your life. Thanks you guys for tuning in, and don't forget to check out our social media, New Hope Bend HS, or our Facebook page, New Hope Bend HS as well. We'd love to keep you guys connected during this crazy time. So thanks for watching. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I will see you all next Tuesday.